Into it today, man. We got a great show for you. I'm gonna pass it to my girl Lena. What's good?
Okay, so Mr. Dean, I am really excited. You want to know why?
Why?
Because we have some new segments to implement into the show.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, okay,
Okay,
okay.
so today we have our first new segment. This is called Today's Man Is. Okay. So today's man is Pierre R. Fulford. Yes. Okay.
See that
That's what we
sounds
got.
so formal and educational.
Say what's up to the people.
Yo, what's up, world? It's Pierre R. Fulford, a.k.a. Pierre the Poet, a.k.a. Ninja for Jesus, a.k.a.
See,
Poet, Prophet, Preacher. I'm just doing this because my man Dean told me, yo, look, I'm just bringing it full circle. We here. A million names, but one God we serve.
I know that's right.
yes.
Tell the people a little bit about yourself and what you represent.
What I represent, very black, very
That
Christ-centered,
boy said very
But he
black.
light skinned though.
light-skinned though.
That
Shout
boy
out
He
to
is
said
not
very
very black. Cause I
Look,
mean you is, but
I
at the
am.
same time,
by culture.
you light skinned though.
Like, put the camera on me. Very
That
black by
boy said-
culture, but
Yes,
thank
but
my
by
mama for
skin
my
color,
complexion.
you light skinned.
I ain't mad at you.
I love it. Christ-centered artist, speaker. Just love what I do. Love giving back to the young people. Right now in the season of helping them cultivate their inner artist and their inner voice. So that's where we at.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So we are going to explore the topic of personal growth and self-development today. We're going to explore the life of Pierre, discover his struggles, his challenges, and his perspective on life as a young man in our society. So I mean, first things first, let's kind of like dive into your childhood and like upbringing, like to get you to the place where you are today. You're an artist, but you're also studying to be a pastor, correct, in seminary
That's
school.
correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
What else
yes.
do you do?
I'm workshopping a lot. So I'm doing a lot of clinics, a lot of workshops, a lot of presentations. I really want this intersection between faith and the arts to just come to the young people. So that's like really what I'm working on right now. Going to different after-school programs, different academies, Christian-based or non-Christian-based, and just bringing rap to them, bringing poetry to them, bringing spoken word to them, bringing belief to them. So that's where we at right now.
Cool. I just thought about something. Do you think that God cares about race?
The race isn't given to the swift or the strong.
Nice
Oh,
comeback.
you are funny, boy.
God cares about the Imago Dei, and so I believe He does care. He does care how we care about race. I'll say that.
How we care about race.
Yeah, He cares about how we care about race.
Well,
Because we're all made in His image, and so that's
Okay.
That's His first designation for us, that we are called to represent Him, and then He has given us freedom to go about that representation to the best of our abilities. But we have to choose the freedom that He wants us to choose. So we have a freedom to not honor the Imago Dei that we're made in, and then we have a freedom to honor it. And so where race honors the Imago Dei, I believe God is for us. But when we use race not to honor the Imago Dei, then I don't think God is on that side.
okay, I need some clarification. So, what is the Imago Dei?
The Imago Dei is just, a big word for image of God. So we are made in the image and likeness of God. I believe it's Latin.
Okay, cool. So there is one statement that you said that I kind of want to pick on because it can be misconstrued,
Yeah.
right? You said that I believe that God cares about race the same way that we do. But the problem is that humanity, you see how crazy race relations are right now. So like we care about race in a way of hatred. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a really messed up world here. People are putting people in categories on this earth. It is because of race that we have mistreated each other. So when you say, "Oh, God cares about race the same way we do," it's like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean, Mr. Dean?
I mean, I kind of understand what you mean. I mean, God cares about race the way we do. That's what you said.
Yeah, I said he cares for it like a father would care that the child is into a particular toy.
Yeah.
So I'll put it like this. So God did not create race. Race is a social construct.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
And
That's
so therefore, if we show up and we care for each other through this construct of race, God is on the side of the caring part. God did not need race to identify us. He did not need race to designate us. We did that to ourselves, and it was not for righteous reasons. So the origin of race is not actually good. But if there can be good brought out of it, God specializes in taking the dark things and bringing light out of them. So if we want to use the construct of race to do something honorable in terms of how we show up as humans, that represent the image of God. I believe God is on that side of it, but I don't think race is something that God inherently said we actually need as a people to honor him with. But we can honor him with it. It's just not a necessity to God. I don't believe so.
Oh, you saying a whole lot. You know that you're gonna be a pastor.
Yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, I mean that's dope. Tell
Okay.
us a little bit how you grew up, man, and what your childhood was like.
Very black, very gospel, Pentecostal, Church of God in Christ. I come from a family, a legacy of faith bearers. So my family came from Money, Mississippi, and so then started a church in
Did you say
Minnesota.
Money, Mississippi?
Money, Mississippi.
Boy, if that ain't like an oxymoron, if
Come
I
on,
ever heard it.
come on now. Yeah, shout out to Grandma
I
Lou.
don't know if there is even is there money in Mississippi?
Maybe
You
that's
know
why
what
they
I'm
came up
saying?
here. We came from it. That's why we came up on our way to Minnesota.
No, I'd never heard of it. This is the first time I ever heard of Money,
Yeah,
Mississippi.
yeah. So Money, Mississippi.
Yeah.
I shout out to Grandma Lou. And so yeah, my upbringing was the black church, Church of God in Christ. And so that's where it is. I'm a legacy baby when it comes to the Pentecostal experience.
What was your economic status like? Did you grow up poor? Did you grow up with like middle class or like what?
I would look
In
back and
Money,
say
Mississippi.
I would look back and say middle class.
Mm,
We could have been poor, but our mom and dad didn't let us know it.
okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They just put the work in and we never knew it. We had what we wanted when we wanted it, as long as we were well behaved. And yeah, there was some times where you had like sugar bread and you had the sugar water and that was what you had. There were some
Yeah.
times we had them, some real times.
Yeah.
But there were also private school times. And there was times when you weren't at private school and there was hand-me-down times where no, you're not getting your new clothes. You gotta share the clothes because me and my brothers are like just years apart. So I remember taking daddy's shoes and playing basketball in them. So yeah.
So would you consider yourself to be pro-black?
Pro-black? I'm
Yeah.
for the people. Oh yeah, come on. I can't. Yeah.
Okay, so like when was that seed planted? Like when you in Money, Mississippi, was you thinking about that as a kid, or did you see yourself a certain way according to the rest of society or whatever? Because I know down in the South, boy, the South has some real problems in
Yeah.
Mississippi.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm
So
saying?
to be more specific, so my grandma, her siblings came from Money, Mississippi. So I'm born Minnesota. I'm born in St. Paul, born and raised.
Okay.
So the legacy comes from out of Money, Mississippi. So the heritage is pro-black because she knows what it's. She knows she saw that for real. She knew you're not supposed to go outside at a certain time. She knew if you went down a certain road, you might not come back.
Mm.
She had that real experience.
Mm.
So there was an inherent pride and legacy they passed on down to us. Like it means something to be black.
Mm.
So you see her and you couldn't tell. I'm light skinned and she be whatever it is before light skin. That's what my grandma whatever.
Okay.
And so there was moments where for her to be able to embrace what it meant to be black in America, she almost had to fight for just because of her complexion. And so there was an inherent pride that got passed down to us. Like it's a thing of honor to be black. It's a thing of pride to be black. You got to walk and talk a certain way, in terms of just living a distinguished life. So yeah,
So like, did you come from a 2-parent home?
I did come from a 2-parent home.
Okay, because it's interesting because like 80% of young black males, they grew up without fathers.
It is. I grew up in a 2-parent home for the first 10 years.
Okay.
And
Mm.
then, yeah, from year like 10 until I was, I would say 13, then I experienced what it's like not to grow up in the same house as my biological father.
Talk about the difference, man. Like,
Yeah.
so, like, how was those first 10 years, like, growing up in a 2-parent home, and then that small transition where it shifted to a single parent home for you? Like,
Yeah,
did you
them
notice a fundamental difference?
yeah, them first 10 years was great years of affirmation. My father, specifically my father, he had this thing about telling us that we're beautiful, we're made powerful, that we can be whatever we wanted to be. That was his nightly routine
Mm.
when he tucked us in. And so mom was always there to comfort us. We was mama's boys, but our dad was the one that he roughed us up. We went across the street to play basketball. That's what it was. It was just having him in our life. It just gave us a strong man to look at home and like, okay, we saw how he treated mom. We saw how he was very charismatic. And so those first 10 years was very affirming, very stable. We got the hard and soft, that mixture of the softness from mom, but the hardness and sternness from dad. It was beautiful. Like them first 10 years for me as a kid, the memories are all nothing but nothing but beautiful. After that, you can, and shout out to those that come in and just do their best with what they have. But there's a difference when you're not hearing your own father's voice, and
Mm.
that routine switches up. Like my biological father set that standard with that routine of affirmation at night. So I remember just going to bed and that routine ain't there. I'm not hearing that voice like, yo, you're beautiful, you're powerful, you can be whatever you want to be. And so then I would say that some insecurity started to settle in around that year, them years.
Mm.
Yeah, I find that to be very interesting, man. Because you said a mouthful with that. Because a lot of times, especially in black households, it's typically the mother who does the affirming,
Mm,
and for you to say, "Nah, that came from my dad." To me, that's powerful.
yeah,
Because I never grew up with my dad. I
yeah,
never really
wow,
met my dad.
yeah,
So to imagine, me being able to have a dad who could affirm some things in me at a young age, I think that's like,
Magical.
man, I think that's yeah, I think it's definitely magical, but it's just like it's like taking a super drink.
yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying? Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
you come
yeah,
out like you ready for the world or whatever, man, and then for him not to be there, and then all of a sudden you start catching some insecurities, and then the age that you started to catch those insecurities is it's an interesting dynamic,
yeah.
man. I just think that that's crazy. Yo, what up? Hey, listen, the Man Up Club Minute is I will look people in the eye when I speak. That's very important because a lot of young men don't know, especially African American males, don't know that back in slavery times, man, if you was a slave, you couldn't even look white people in the eye. You had to hold your head down, and a lot of times you get killed or you get whipped. If you was to look a white person in the eye when you speak. And so that's why it's so critically important now, today, for young men to be able to do that. Oftentimes, when you talk to a lot of young black males who are in high school or barely getting into college or what have you, between that age group of like 13 to probably about 19 years old, you'll find out that when you talk to young men, they typically don't look you in the eye. They're typically looking on the ground, they're looking around, not necessarily making eye contact. I tell you why that is so important. It's critical to make eye contact and look people in the eye when you speak because it gives you a sense of pride. It gives you a sense of equality. It also gives you a sense of purposeness and awareness, and also to let people know that you're paying attention, and also for you to have some sort of foundation to let them know that you're being heard and that the conversation is reciprocal. So looking people in the eye when you speak is a sign of respect. It's a sign of authority and what have you. And that's why it was, basically prohibited during slavery times for black people to look white people in the eye when they speak because it was a sign of equality, in which white people didn't think that black people were a full person, a whole person, or what have you, or were less than, or were subordinate to. And so we have to continue to teach our young men and our young women and our young people of color that, hey, if all things are equal, man, you got the right to look people in the eye and basically have a direct conversation just to know, number one, that you matter, that what you have to say is important, and more importantly for yourself, it's all about self-validation. So if you know a young man, when you talk to young people, whether it's a young man or a young lady, and you have a conversation with them, and you notice that they're just kind of looking all over the place when they're talking to you, man, just check them right there, check them in love, and reset them, and just say, hey, man, look over here, look me in my eye, let's have a conversation. And typically they'll do that, but they'll find out that it's a very hard thing to do. And the reason it's a very hard thing to do is because they have not grown up and been accustomed to looking people in the eye when they speak. But that's one of our Man Up Club pledges. I will look people in the eye when I speak as a sign of respect, and it's a sign of authority.
Thank you, Mr. Dean, for the Man Up Minutes of the week. Back to our conversation with Pierre.
Yeah.
So you had said that your father was the one giving you a lot of affirmations as a young man. I think that's really special. When it comes to gender roles and parenting, do you expect, certain actions and mannerisms from your father compared to your mother?
I think growing up, you just accept what it is because you don't know what a gender role is. You just know if mom and dad are there, they're there, and they show up as they show up. So, for me, I didn't have any expectations. I was just in a position of receiving, and so My mom had her own way of just being the beautiful mother and strong Black woman that she is, and I love that about her. And then my dad, I didn't know it was unique for a father figure to be so affirming with his words. I know the root for that for him was he did not have a father when he was growing up. So he made a
Mm.
pledge to himself. I'm going to be there for my sons. I'm going to be there for my daughter. I'm going to be there for my kids. And I'm going to give them the love that I didn't get a chance to receive. I'm going to pour into them in a way that I wanted someone to pour into me. So I know that was his motivation.
Mhm.
But growing up, you don't really. I didn't know what a gender role was. I didn't have that language or that paradigm. I
Mm.
just knew this is my pops, this is my mom, and they love me, and they loved us in very beautiful ways. Like, yeah, we struggled at times, but we couldn't tell that we were struggling. It's only in hindsight that we realized, oh, that was a struggle. But the love, man, filled in the blanks. So yeah,
Yeah, and I bring up the concept of gender roles not because, I think that not because I think that, there are certain actions that only males should do or only females should do. But, especially in the polarizing society that we live in today, people hear gender roles and they automatically just run away from it, or they think that you're, a feminist, or they think that you're, one of the isms or whatever. And it's like, actually, I believe there are special things about each gender that are enhanced, right? And that doesn't mean that a dad can't speak words of affirmation to his son. That doesn't mean that he can't, comfort his daughter. That doesn't mean that a mother can't, scold her children or provide. But there are certain things that both both genders bring to the table that's really special for the development of a person.
yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, I find that to be very interesting when it comes to gender roles. I find it very interesting because some of it is biblical, though. And I'd pose it in the form of a question. Then, why do you think that the Bible says, "Hey, husband, love your wives." You feel me? And then why does the scripture say, wives, was it respect your husband?
Yeah.
Submit
So,
to your
well, yeah, I
husband.
mean, but it's more about respect,
Yeah.
Mhm.
And why do you? So to me, isn't that kind of like a gender role, or kind of like some instructions?
I think it's put there because, yes, God is speaking directly to the woman. God is speaking directly to the man for a reason,
Yeah, but what
you
I'm
know?
saying is why he didn't tell them the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Why he didn't give the instruction to the father to respect your wives, and give the instruction to the father. What I got it confused. Why did he not give the instruction to the fathers for them to respect their wives?
Yeah.
And then when it came to the mothers, why didn't he give the mothers the instructions to basically love their husband?
I was going to say, here's what I think. Just off the top of my head. God saying that to each of the genders is, I think it's an indication that, to the female, to the wife, love is one of the highest values and the highest ways that she can be honored. And, on the opposite end, the husband, the male, one of the highest respects or values that you can give to him is respect. That's not to say that, husbands and males don't care about love. No, they need to be loved too. And same thing goes for the woman. She needs to be respected too. But it's more so, I feel like God just wanted to call special attention, like, hey, the way that respect is to men is the way that love is to women.
Okay, but once again, that's a differentiation based on gender to some degree. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
And I'm just curious why he would say that. Like, I mean, when God talks, he doesn't talk abstractly. When he sends his word out, his word won't return to him void. When he sends his word out, whatever he sends it to do is supposed to accomplish what it does accomplish, whatever he sent it to do. And so, when we talk about these words and what God speaks, well, obviously we're here because he spoke all of this into existence. You feel me? But not only did he speak it into existence, he spoke instructions
Yeah,
into
yeah,
us
yeah,
as human beings. And I'm just
yeah,
posing it because it's just something to think about when we talk about gender and we talk about
yeah,
roles
yeah,
as to why God would emphasize certain things to certain genders
yeah,
and what have you. I don't have an answer,
yeah. So
but but it's worth a conversation.
if I can tap into that real quick, I'm not going to say I have an answer either, but there are some things that are like really significant in Scripture, as we see the creation of man according to Genesis 2. He created Adam first, and then when it came time for the woman to show up from Adam's side, God cultivated the woman, and when it came to the fall, the woman ate from the tree that they weren't supposed to eat from. But then when Adam partook and ate, that's when the consequence of the fall came from. And then we get this uh the what God says is going to be the consequences. So we have the consequences is, woman, you will have this deep affection and longing for your husband, and he doesn't say the same thing for the husband. He doesn't say, he's, for the woman. He's like, yo, you have this deep and longing affection and want, and almost overbearing desire for your husband, and it's going to be painful when you give birth to children.
Hmm.
But for Adam, he was like, it's going to be painful for your type of labor, and your type of labor is to produce from the ground,
To work,
to work.
yeah.
And so I believe that how we the impact of gender roles, we can look at the fall and see some of this may be a consequence of God needing to reset order, because now we're in a fallen state. Because in Genesis 1, you have man and you have woman. We're made in his image. Genesis 2, the story is unpacked, and it's not until after the fall that there needs to be a certain type of order, so that in light of the fall, my will can still be produced through humankind. And so when you get to the scripture that speaks to husbands laying down their lives, loving your wife in so much so that you'll lay your life down like Christ did for the church, we know that Christ represents the Father in heaven. And he came down as a man, and I believe that was for a specific reason. And so that we take on the image of Christ, we take on the example as men of Christ, and then the church embodies, would you say, the bride of Christ. And so what is the church supposed to do? We're supposed to submit to the word of God. And so even when we look at Christ and the church, we look at man and the woman, I believe God, through gender roles, is showing the world that there can still be order in this fallen state, but it has to be me at the helm. And through our gender roles, we're supposed to be an example of what that actually looks like. The love of God, and then submitting to the love of God. And yeah, I'm just, some things interesting scriptures to
Yeah,
point out. Yeah.
it's interesting, and
that,
for me, I
go ahead.
believe in gender roles.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I believe in gender roles too. The way that I think about it is most, to plainly put it, the way that I think about gender roles is yin and yang. Like, you got to have, this half of the relationship dynamic functioning in order for this half of the relationship to function. It's like, when I think about if I'm going to be in a relationship with somebody, it's like, okay, you best believe that I'm going to respect the heck out of my man, because he honors me, because he puts me on a pedestal, because he loves me, and he shows that. It's going to be easy for me to show him respect, and vice versa.
Yeah, I believe in gender roles simply because women can bear children and men can't, and that's a gender role. Period. Like there's a reason for that.
Big gender role.
You feel me? And it's interesting how people, some people like, this thing about, there is no gender role and we all can just kind of do whatever and whatever. It's like,
No, we
okay,
all
wait a
can do
minute.
whatever.
Then
We can't abandon order.
exactly.
We have a fun little segment here. It's called I Like When a Young Man, or I Like When a Man. So I like when a man opens doors without being asked for a woman,
Why?
because it just shows consideration, and it's a sign of being a gentleman.
Interesting.
Why you gotta do all that? You said interesting.
Because it is interesting.
Oh, okay. I thought there was some sass there.
Because I know a lot. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's cool, but I just think that if it's something that young women like, then they should provide an opportunity for it to take place. And I don't know that a lot of them today provide an opportunity for that to take place. I don't know any young women who will stand and wait at the door for a young man to open it or even get that message.
That's
If
true.
you beat me to the door, how can I open it for you?
You feel me?
Mm.
So I think it's on both sides of the table, and I don't know that they truly expect it.
You're right. You're right. And you know what? You're right. If you want to get treated like a princess, if you want to get treated like a queen, act like it. Period.
Yeah, I love that. I like when a woman shows respect.
And we got these automatic doors now, so technology's making it real hard. You go to a door, opens up for you, so it's like, come on, bro.
Right.
Give us something, bro. Automatic doors, suicide doors, like they just pop open by themselves. I can't even be
Yeah.
a gentleman anymore, but we good.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. You like when a woman
Shows respect
got you. What's one way that she can?
by just affirming me. Doesn't happen often to men.
Pierre?
I like when a woman accepts my intellectual side, because I know for for me and for us, usually is we do have to be emotional listeners when speaking with the women in our lives,
Mhm.
right? Or just speaking with a woman. It's best that we are emotional listeners. But then vice versa, it's in terms of how we communicate what's going on. Usually, it's from our intellect first, and so to see when a woman's like can respect and hold space for the intellectual side as I hold space for her emotional
The
side.
logical?
Yeah, man.
The
Love it.
logical?
Theological too. Yes, goes into
Like it. I like it. So let's get back to the conversation with Pierre. We're talking about gender roles and other.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just talking about the dynamic because he was talking about how the impact that his mom had on his life versus what his father had on his life, and then what it was like to have the impact just being a single parent or what have you. So yeah, so you was born and raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but your family heritage is from Mississippi, and so growing up in the Twin Cities, man, like what was some of the major struggles that you had as a young man? And the reason I ask this is because on the Man Up Club Presents, what we really like to do is give a voice to young black males, and I consider you to be a successful young man.
Appreciate it.
But sometimes that success has to come with hardships, and it doesn't for everybody, but a lot of times it does. And so for young men that's out there listening, and typically when I have people mentor talk to our young men, I want them to talk about their success, of course,
Yeah.
and where they've arrived. But unfortunately, a lot of our young men deal with failures,
Yeah.
and the problem is, can they recover from their failures, or if they come from an environment where they're consistently failing, can they continue to get up,
Yeah.
or do they stay stuck in that failure, and then basically end up becoming a failure and not reaching their full potential?
Yeah.
But I think if they heard from other, young black men who are successful, who had some failures, that they can identify with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You feel me? So how was it for you?
School was tough. I'll paint a picture. When I was 8, went to my dad's study. He had a study room. He had a chest in one of the closets. Opened up the chest, bunch of drawings. He was a great artist, comic book drawings all over the place. He had a lot of books also with just pictures. I didn't realize that I read best through images, not words. So separation happens. I'm in 3rd grade. I'm in a suburban school, out in the suburbs. And so the educational structure for me, I didn't have the language for it, but it just wasn't it wasn't built to meet the needs of the different learning styles that were a part of me and a part of a lot of young black men. We learn differently. And so for me, I learned through pictures, but now we got a bunch of books with just words in it. And that 3rd grade, 4th grade period, I was illiterate. I couldn't read. I started crying, told my teacher, I can't read this. And she looked at me like, yes, you can. I said, no, I can't read this. Like unless I see a picture and you break down that picture to me, it doesn't make sense to me. And so for like 3rd and 4th grade, that's when the procrastination kicked in, because I was like, if I can't understand the work, I'm not going to do the work. And so I would literally have to wait till mom got home to like, hey, yo, what is this? Can you help me with this? And she would, and I'll turn the work in. But if she wasn't home, or if she came home tired, or would just kind of forgot about it, I was outside playing. Education just kind of went over my head at that moment, because I had given up on myself because I was in a system that did not know how to meet my learning style needs. And so but I didn't have no language. You don't have language for that at 9, 10, 11, that you're not struggling to comprehend. You're just struggling with the images that they present that are foreign to you because that's just not how you grew up learning. So that was one that was really heavy. I still got nightmares to this day about like not graduating from junior high. There was work I was doing my junior. I graduated from St. Agnes. We moved back to the cities. I went to a private school, and I graduated. The day I graduated, I was still turning in math work. Homework never caught on for me. I always did it last minute. Even if I could do it, once reading clicked and all the things clicked, I just wanted to have fun. So there was some, I don't want to say acute depression, but there was something there that had settled in between 9 and 10, and this like, I don't feel like doing this. I don't want to do this. I want to have fun. I want to escape. And so the playground, basketball, rap, those are the mechanisms I used to escape. So I did the bare minimum with work. Then I went off and had fun. I was playing on the playground, playing basketball, rapping with my brothers, doing whatever. Junior high comes along. I'm still doing math work with my red gown on, about to graduate from 8th grade.
Wow.
College, it's the same energy. I only made the dean's list, no pun intended. I only made the dean's list once. You feel it? Yeah, you caught that? I only made the dean's list once because I wanted to try. For my ACT, just throwing it out there for the young black, like I got a 20 because I didn't care to study. I have figured out I'm an average student if I just take the work face value and just do it. I can get an A if I wanted to, but there's so much else that I'm actually into.
Right.
I didn't thrive I went to 7 high schools. I didn't thrive for my senior year.
7?
Yes, 7 high schools for my senior year. So now we're talking about being in different households. We're talking about one parent stays in the suburbs, one parent stays in the city. We're talking about who you're more comfortable living with at the time that you're living with them. And so I love my pops. But when I turned 18, that was a struggle year for me and my pops. I'm his firstborn. I'm turned 18. It's 2 men in the household for the first time. So now we got that ego clash that's just inherent. We're trying to figure out our footing with each other. It was nothing personal, but but it was highly intense. My 18th year was really intense. And we didn't know how to talk about it. We didn't know how to go about it. So for me, it was like, I'm about to go stay with mom. She out in the suburbs. I just need a break.
Right.
But then I'm out in the suburban schools. Education way over my head. It's fast track. Like your senior year, they prep you for senior year when you in 7th grade. So how you supposed, like where you supposed to be at as a senior, they prep you for that in 7th grade out in them suburban schools. So I went to Egan for about a quarter. Man, I stopped going to school.
Wow.
Mom didn't know she was working, so I would just ditch school. She would leave to go to work before we got up, so I just stayed at home. I was just watching basketball highlights and going outside. We had a basketball court in the backyard. I just spent the time hooping. And she's like, how come you ain't at school? I said, this ain't for me. It's like, well, you going back to stay with your dad. Not in a bad way, but if this isn't for you, you got to be where you're supposed to be. My last school was high school for recording arts, and then it clicked because they incorporated project-based learning. So I could take my gift with arts and things that I saw with pictures, and I can incorporate that into the core curriculum. And that's when school was actually fun. But that was only like for a semester. So out of all the semesters I had from 9th to 12th grade, only one semester I really felt like, oh, I could do this education thing.
Wow.
Went to college because I wanted to prove something to myself and to my brothers that you can do it too. Struggled throughout college. I did enough to play basketball, but outside of that, and my grades weren't what they're supposed to be, except for that one semester. I said, I'm gonna try to make this dean's list just for some self-pride. And I did it. But then the day before graduation, I'm doing this test at the last minute just so I could get this cap and gown and this degree. It's still the same habits that carried from ninth and from when I was 9 and 10 years old. Them same procrastination habits, them same I don't really care about this ain't really making sense. I'm gonna do enough to get by. I need an incentive, so basketball is the incentive. So to play basketball, I gotta at least get a C, so I'm at least get a C. All that stuff carried with me from 9 until I was 19, yo. Like
Wow.
19, 20, 21. Like it's real.
I'm glad you shared all that, man. I think that's dope.
Right.
But at the same time, I think it's dope. I think it's crazy. And, I actually feel bad for you in a sense, just because I work with a lot of young black males now who struggle academically in school because of a lot of extenuating circumstances. And of course, you had some that was at play too.
Yeah.
And the reason I say I feel sorry for you is the same reason why I feel sorry for them, because this is your life. It's your real life. And obviously, what I take from what you said was there was a particular recipe for learning.
Yeah.
That had you received it,
Mm-hmm.
you could have reached your full potential.
Yeah.
And I would venture to say that you didn't reach your full potential because you were trying to figure out what the right recipe was for you. And at the same time, time is passing
Yeah.
and life is happening
Yeah.
and you moving around. And then there's just these different learning styles. And then there's these different cultures
Yeah.
and different environments too. And all of that. And I think that's interesting because that's what I'm dealing with a lot of young men when I'm mentoring these guys and they're making D's and F's in school. And their teachers are deeming them as unintelligent,
Come on.
illiterate, dumb and stupid. And the sad thing about it is because they can't articulate as well as you just did
Come on.
the issues, then they settle for what they were just told about themselves,
Yeah.
and they end up not achieving.
Mm.
And so that's why we got this 78% graduation rate when it comes to young black males. And so that's their life. And
Yeah.
so it's just like, man, wait a minute, like, we got to fix that. We got to fix that because
Right.
we losing a lot of young men who are brilliant, who are intelligent,
Come on.
and if we could just get the right recipe
Come on.
of learning for these young men, first of all, the world would be a greater place, but then even the United States would be a much greater place because they would be serious contributors to society where they're actually overlooked. You feel me?
Come on.
And I think that that's a crazy tragedy when it comes to the education system, especially educating young black males. And then you add on top of that this layer of fear that a lot of teachers have who are not black and who don't even understand the culture. And you put some things out there, man, and it resonates with me because I can only imagine if you had parents who didn't have a lot of resources or means, to really support you. But the fact that your mom was like right there asking you, hey, what's going on with you, why you ain't in school and this, that, and the other. I don't know if your dad was in your life at that particular time or not, but I'm just thinking about it, man. There's so many young boys who are in your situation right now, and their situation is maybe even a little worse just because of economic circumstances or where they may live or what have you. And I know what it's like to live in the inner city. I didn't even ask whether you were living in an inner city at that time, but there are also complexities that come with being in an inner city. Number one, that can just kind of even take your attention away or even add to the layers of, why you wouldn't just jump back in school and try to reach your full potential or what have you. And so, we got a lot of young men like that right now who just give up and they quit and then they cut them, they sell themselves short because they don't have that, that strong parental academic support to be like, yo, you need to get back in the game and get back on the ball and get your education and this, that, and the other. But for a person like you who is educated and who, fortunately, got back in the game and took your situation to become, obviously who you are today, that's a very special drive.
Yeah.
But I struggle and I'm saddened by the young men who may not have had your drive.
Yeah.
They may have had your level of intelligence, but not the drive. And
Well-
it doesn't matter really why they don't get to that next level. But the bottom line is the reality is that they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you were talking about that, you have the drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it was the structure learning style that helped you change, your educational journey.
Yeah.
So it's like, thank God for High School for Recording Arts and their program-based learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I honestly think that, or not I think, but I believe that our country needs to do a way better job at changing up the public school system. I worked as a substitute teacher for a few months, but in that time I was exposed to so much disparity and such a big gap in the educational achievement zone.
Yeah.
Because I was in a classroom where, I was teaching a middle school class in the inner city of Louisville, Kentucky. Shout out Louisville, that's where I'm from. And what's crazy was they were in middle school, right?
Yeah.
But the packets of learning that they gave me to teach to the students were at an elementary level. I'm talking about packets that had like paragraphs of reading where they're supposed to write 3 times the similes in the sentence.
Yeah.
And we're in middle school.
Yeah.
We're in middle school. And mind you, a lot of them didn't even know how to like fully read the whole paragraph.
Yeah.
So they sitting up here getting ready to go to high school
Yeah.
with that reading level. And the teacher to student ratio, how can you catch any of those students up to where they really need to be? And then the fact that, schools out here are passing
Yeah.
students like that.
Yeah.
It's jacked up. It's jacked up all the way.
And that's why we need a man up club. For me, I had the impact program. So in high school, after school, we went to the YWCA program, and it's my lifelong mentor, Terry Phillips. That's where I met him at 15. So we need these after school programs to help fill in the gaps. Parents still at home, kids still don't know what to do. Do we have programs available, like you said, that can help be there where, because the teacher's going to do what the teacher got to do, and it may not be enough for the students. Like you said, we need these programs, these after school programs, to really pour into, really invest in the young men, specifically since we're talking in at this moment, especially our young black men. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? Me and Mr. Dean, we were actually talking about different types of schools. I recently learned about Montessori schools. This is something that I wasn't aware of, but my brother, little bro, Titus, he went to a Montessori school when he was a kid, like in elementary. And so I ain't never been in that type of school. I've always been educated by the public school system until I got into college where it was private school. But yeah, like just the difference. For those who don't know about Montessori school, what I learned was it's a type of learning environment where students are given the authority and their independence is like sort of respected to where they can learn the way that they want to learn.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of having the students like sit down and they have to sit in the seat for 8 hours a day with bathroom breaks and lunch breaks in between. It's more so you allow the child to go get up and play and explore things on their own. And I think that's such a brilliant way of educating us as humans. It's like it's so crazy how we're in 2025 and we're still thinking like, oh, this is the only way to learn. And, you have to pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to colleges and universities and institutions that teach in one type of way.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yes. Go ahead.
Speak to the authority and respect part. I believe that more, especially if the young black men on the verge of losing their drive or have lost their drive, if we actually knew that, authority and respect is tied to education. My mentor told me that. So that was part of the reason why I said, I got to graduate high school. I got to pass this ACT, and I got to get a degree from college. Not because I actually wanted to go to college, not because I actually wanted to graduate. I was losing that drive. But he was like, the doors are going to open for you just because you have a degree behind your name. And with your intelligence and with your gifting, right? Maximize what you can do. Because like with this degree, it's going to change how people look at you. It's not going to change how God looks at you. It's not going to change how God has gifted you. But it's going to change how people look at you. And that's the world that you live in. So just that one seed helped me not get that steering wheel back. I'm like, you know what? It's tough. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to do what I got to do to at least graduate and get this degree. And so he was showing me that if you want authority, if you want respect in this game that the world has set up, like this is one way you got to get it.
Right.
It's that degree. And it's a serious message. Not a lot of our young people are getting that message. Not a lot of our young black men are getting that message. They're taught to chase authority or respect in a different way, not knowing that there is a route that you can take, that you can get that respect and authority that you're looking for in the streets, or you're looking for in these different things that we get ourselves into, because that's what we miss. That's what we're looking for, but that's not what we're taught how to get the right way.
Right.
Yeah,
Period,
I think it's interesting.
period.
I think it's interesting because I think there needs to be another level of accountability when it comes to educating kids. I was just in a high school. We got a couple of Man Up Club programs that are in high schools now, and I pay attention to how the dynamics work, and some of these schools, they write the charters for a particular way of learning or whatever, or these alternative schools, and the way they write those programs for those grants is brilliant, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way they implement those programs. And so, when I'm in these schools, I'm seeing a lot of young black males that's just hanging out in the hallway, and that's just kicking it or what have you. And of course there needs to be some parameters put around that, to make sure the kids are going to class and what have you. But I think that there should be an extra layer of accountability with teachers, that if you have a certain percentage of minority students that are not passing your class, then there needs to be an accountability around that, or a reduction in pay or something to that nature, because that's a way in which we can look at real results. Because a lot of times these teachers, man, they just kind of shift these kids off to a different classroom. You
Yeah,
feel me? And they
yeah,
just kind of hanging out or what
yeah.
have you. But I think that teachers should have a level of like a performance-based teaching.
Come on.
You feel me? To the point where they're held accountable. What other job can you go to where if you don't perform, you get to keep your job? You know what I'm saying? Me and Celena just had this conversation
Come on.
yesterday.
Come on. Come on.
You know what I'm saying? But if you a teacher and you passing kids, but you got, you know, African American kids where, you know, you got a 50% rate of them passing your class,
Yeah.
you feel me? That's a major problem.
Come on.
And you need to be held accountable for that, man, because at the end of the day, you basically perpetuating a cycle
Yeah.
of poverty.
Yeah.
You feel me? And when kids are not educated, they get into a lot of different things, man. And so, you know, you just want to we want to get to a place where we can eliminate some of those barriers that we can control from a systemic standpoint. And they don't need to cut no checks for nobody that ain't getting the job done.
That part.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? So that's your man, Mr. Dean. Hey, you listening to the Man Up Club podcast and radio show, man, on Channel 140 of XM Radio, man. Tap in with us at themanupclub.org. If you want to support our organization, feel free to holler at us, man, on our IG at themanupclub _MN. Check out the videos, man. We got a lot going on that you just can't see here on the radio or tapping into this podcast, man. But you got to come and get with us and just be a part of everything that we're doing.
Thank you so much, Pierre, for coming on the Man Up Club podcast today. We really enjoyed the rich conversation and dialogue, and I know that it's going to bless a lot of people. So thank you for coming.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank y'all for having me. Shout out to the world. Man Up Club. You already know what it is. Stay proud, stay black, keep it godly.